Okay. So, I'm Cynthia. I'm the host of the reality series CPS the Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney or a social worker. I'm just a mom who has had her children removed by CPS. And after 2 years of fighting, I did get my kids back. I now have this platform for parents. I'm sorry, I have the hiccups. Who
It's
have lost
okay.
their children to CPS, and they get to just share about their trauma and their experience that has happened when dealing with CPS. So, Natalia, can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Natalia Dalton. I live in Virginia, in Reston, Virginia. I have a case in Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm dealing with the circuit court. My case has been stuck in the circuit court for many years now. Usually the protocol is that you appeal to the circuit court, but it's supposed to go back to JDR. But for some reason, this judge has made it in her mind that she wants to keep my case in circuit, which makes it really hard to keep going back to court because it's just not as easy as the JDR, the family court below, to bring cases. You have to have a material change of circumstance to even go up to the circuit. So, yeah. Hi, she's cute.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Was bringing me my medication bag. um, so
Well, I mean, that's good about your case. You know, you got your kids back. Did you have a really good attorney?
I did. That was the only reason I got, well, not, shut my door, baby. I love you. That was not the only reason I got my case back. My case was completely wronged and false. Was lied about, and my children were taken by my mother. Um, so I got my kids back. However, it was not easy to do that because CPS doesn't make it easy. But
Yeah.
so let me ask you,
Okay.
did you have CPS in your life as a child or no?
No, not as a child. No.
So when was CPS first involved in your life?
So CPS got involved because when I was separating from my ex, back in, this whole started back in 2013, 14. We were having, so my son lives with his father. It's not that CPS took it, but CPS was involved in my case where they lied on the stand and they, gave false information. So a few times I had to call CPS on the father. One was because he was, like, one incident where my father was, my child was reporting to me on when his father had other weekend visitations, that he was playing in the shower with his father, and his father was playing with his penis and touching his penis. So I called CPS, and that was like the very first case that I brought CPS in. And they went to his father's house and asked the father, "Is this true? Are you playing with your son's penis?" And the father said no. So they just,
How old was he at that time?
he was 6 years old.
And who told you that that was happening?
And my son did.
Okay.
My son was, and it seemed very truthful the way he was explaining it. He says, "Yeah, he takes showers with daddy and he does this and he does that." And
May I ask what he does?
like, he squeezes my penis and I play with his, and we're laughing, or he's laughing, the father's laughing. And I thought that was very disturbing. Why would you still be taking showers with your child at 6 years old? Anyways, so that was the first case that I brought CPS, and they failed me there because I don't understand why they would go to the father's house and ask him, "Is this true?" And then dismiss it based on what the father said. Of course, the father's going to say, "No, I don't do that." I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. And then a couple other times I had to call CPS on the father because, well, the big one was back in 2018, my last court hearing. the father lost his job, and my son, when I was under supervised visitation, and right before it started, so they put me on supervised visitation as a punishment for bringing up abuse in the court. The judge, she didn't want to hear my abuse case, and so back in November of 2000, was it 18? Yeah, 2018. No, 17. I took my son to the magistrate because for months he was reporting my dad choked me, he twisted my arm, he threw me on the floor, he slapped me, he's putting makeup on my face. And these were all credible stories. And these are stories that he was telling me, not why my son was living under my care, but he was living full-time under his father's care. So he's reporting these stories to me during these months, and I was like, you know what, this is getting out of hand. So I took my son to the magistrate because I didn't trust the CPS at this point, because it seems like they never investigate anything. According
What is that? What is the magistrate or whatever?
So that's the so they work for the court, like they're the ones who you go to. They're at the police station.
Okay.
And you, instead of reporting with a police officer, you go to the magistrate, and he's like a very important person for the courts. So his word is considered valid. Like he'll listen to the claims of the abuse or whatever, and then he writes like a protective order.
Okay.
So he put this protective order that for 24 hours, so that my son comes and stays with me based on what my son had reported to him.
Who had custody?
The father. The father had custody of my son at that time.
Why?
Why did he have custody?
Yeah.
Well, because it started back in 2013, 14. I was moving to Fairfax, and the father made this claim that I went to my son's school with no shoes on and barefooted, my hair disheveled. And even though I never did that, and because I moved out of the county, he tried to say that I didn't give him enough notice, that I was just trying to leave town, which wasn't true. I had a lawyer, and he knew where I was going. He knew I was looking for an apartment. Anyways, I was not invited to the hearing. So I was basically set up with false allegations. So they set me up. I wasn't invited to the hearing. I was moving that day, and my lawyer writes me a text and says, I'm sorry, you just lost custody of your son. And I pulled over. The cop almost gave me a ticket because I ran through the light because I couldn't believe what I was reading. You need to hand your son over to the father. I couldn't reach the lawyer for 2 days. And she told me that she tried to defend me in the hearing, that she was only going to a status hearing to set up a trial for our case. But when she got there, there was an emergency hearing on, and she knew I was moving. So she didn't want me to have to leave what I was doing to go to the court. So she tried to defend me, and she didn't win the argument or whatever. So basically I lost custody of my son.
Who was that?
Huh?
Who was that was trying to defend you?
My lawyer at the time.
Okay.
I had a lawyer from Legal Services.
Okay.
I was only paying her like, I'm considered like low income kind of, so I was like $700. She seemed like a very new lawyer in the system, but I also found out when all this was happening, there was a GAL. There was a lot of weird stuff going on in my case. You know what a GAL is, right?
No, but you also cut out.
Oh, the guardian ad litem. You know
Yes.
who that is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like, she's supposed to be the attorney for the child, right? Well, this attorney for the child was a nightmare. She only listened to the father. She went camping with the father. She went into the court and did a joint hearing for so that he gets sole custody. So her and the father did a motion together to make sure the child gets sole custody. It's really sad what happened. It's just that I was set up, that I have no criminal record. I've never abused my child, nothing. And I lost custody of my child. Kind of like you, false allegations, made up stories. My ex is a narcissist and he's very controlling. He was abusive to me. Um, and when I brought up abuse, we don't want to hear that. That's the past. So they kind of ruled that out. They don't care about the abuse and the history, which I think is crazy. Because I mean, if there's a cycle of abuse, you're supposed to listen to those stories, right? The CPS did nothing to my case. Like I said, the magistrate, he wrote a protective order. I took it to court. I had a hearing. They dismissed the case because in less than 24 hours, his attorney went to the court and got it dissolved without me there. So I wasn't even there to defend why even the protective order was going on. My son wasn't there to talk to the judge on what was happening to his dad's house. They basically believed his attorney in the courtroom, less than 24 hours, saying, "Oh, Miss Dalton is making up lies," and they dissolved the case. So then I tried to take it to the judge that's on my case, which I want her off my case. And she dismissed it. She said, "I don't want to hear anything about abuse in my courtroom." Anyways, but during my supervised visitation, because that's how they did it. The father did a motion where he wanted me to have supervised visitation because he didn't want my son reporting to me anymore on what was going on in his house. So it was basically like a gag order that was put between me and my son. So for the last 3 years, my relationship with my son and I has been horrible. I have to pay to see my son. The father gets to pick who the supervisor is, how much I pay. Sometimes he picks supervisors to charge me $150 an hour. I find people that charge me $40, but he said that's too little. So this court order, which I was telling you, I shared with you, is very sick. He pretty much dictates everything in me and my son's life. I have to pay for phone calls. I only get one phone call a week, 15 minutes. I have to pay like $3 a minute. And I've never done, can you hear me?
Yeah, $3 a minute to talk to him?
Yes. And the father and his attorney came up with this order, okay? And all the judge did was sign it. A year later, I come back to her after this crazy order and I said, he's denying me visitation. And she's like, "Well, what do you want me to do about it?" I said, "I want you to hold the father accountable for his actions." So she looks over to the other attorney and she winks her eyes at the attorney and says, "What do I do?" And says, "Well, we don't want her to come back to this courtroom without a psychological evaluation." So they mandated that I get a neuropsychological evaluation before I can ever step foot in the courtroom. And I asked the judge why. She said, "Well, because of your behavior." What behavior? I brought up abuse because I'm concerned about my son. You don't even want to hear him. You don't want to hear me. You don't want to hear the witnesses. I mean, how is that? I'm defending my child. And she goes, "Well, I don't want to entertain you anymore, Miss Dalton, until you do what the father's attorney wants. They want a psychological evaluation from you." So yeah, it's pretty sick. The judge, she was so mad because in the last hearing, not only did I bring up the protective order and all the abuse that I was trying to bring up and she didn't want to hear, she also said I violated her order. Now over the years, they have been taking more and more of my rights as a parent. The father would make up these accusations that I was disruptive in the doctor's office, that I would go and I would cause scenes, even though all the doctors and the therapists and everybody has come and saying that, well, there was two people that, two doctors that he kind of paid. So they kind of were like on his side, like his testimony. But for the most part, all of them always say that I have always been very caring and that I've always gone in to like the schools and was concerned about my son and his well-being. but the father would say that she's causing scenes and all this. And so I thought in court, hearsay is not supposed to go, right? But for some reason in this court, whatever the father says, it becomes truth. So he'll say really bizarre things like, oh, she goes to my son's game and she'll hit me. And even there's no proof that I ever hit my son, I am no longer allowed to go to his games or his activity.
Who said that, and who are you hitting?
Oh, the father would go on the stand, you know, my ex would go on the stand and say, oh, when the mother of my son goes to our games, she's hitting me. She tried to slap me in front of my son and stuff. So then the judge would be like, oh, really? That's terrible. Miss Dalton, you are no longer allowed to go to your son's games or activities anymore. You know, and based on his false allegations, there was no proof that I ever hit him. There is no evidence of marks on his face, nothing like I even touched him. She didn't want to hear my son's testimony. I'm talking about the judge.
What about witnesses?
Witnesses would go there. I had 5 witnesses on the claims of abuse. And they even brought signed affidavits into the courtroom. And the judge says, I don't want to hear from them. I don't want to hear anything about abuse. I don't want to hear from the child. I don't want to hear from your witnesses. I don't want to hear your recordings. I don't want to hear anything. If you're going to talk about abuse in my courtroom, then get out. So basically, all the evidence that I brought to her 3 years on abuse, instead of protecting my son, she left him in the same scenario, but she put basically a gag order against me and him where he can't say anything to me anymore and I can't say anything to him. It's so bad, the order that I have, that they put these supervisors and the father gets to dictate what I can talk about on the visits. And if I talk about his school, how is everything at home or anything, and it could be school, anything at home, anything personal about my Ethan, a normal conversation you would like to have with your child, I'm not even allowed to have it. How is it going, your doctor's appointments, your medical, your school, or anything? They are allowed to end my visits, end my calls. So basically, the paid supervisors that are they're paying for my calls that I'm paying, right? But they get to cut it off because they have to follow his directions. So you should see some of the phone calls. I've actually recorded them. Some of the phone calls, I'm talking to my son, and at the end of the conversation, as a mom, I want him to know that I'm still fighting for him, you know, that I'm not giving up on us, and that I love him, and that I'm still trying. Because I think that's really important for him to hear, you know, since we can't talk about it. We can't talk at all. Well, they have restricted me that when I'm talking to my son, they said, you are not allowed to talk about future visits, that you're trying, that you hope to see him soon, or nothing like that. And so every now and then I'll try to get something in, like, you know, baby, every time I will never stop trying to see you. I'm doing my best so that we can have a relationship. She'll go and hang up the phone on me. She'll scream at me and she says, I told you, you can't talk about those things in front of my son. And she'll hang up the phone. And I don't even get to say goodbye to my son. The last thing that he saw was that a woman was screaming at me and the phone was cut off. And now it's been 6 months straight that I haven't seen my son because the father is using the virus and using, he doesn't agree with the supervisor, or even though he approved one supervisor, he's saying, I don't know if they're safe because I don't know if they've been tested for COVID, 19. So there's always an excuse behind why visitation.
But aren't the visitations online?
I mean, no, the visitation's in person every other Saturday.
Oh, even through COVID?
Yeah, even through that. But in Virginia, there was a order that came out by Norton saying that that even though we're in this pandemic, that court orders should still be followed. And as long as supervisors or whoever is doing the visits, if we keep our distance and we wear a mask, that should not be a reason not to continue visits. Well, now the father has used that. One of the guys that was doing our visitation that he approved, he said that he told him that when Miss Dalton, if I'm going to do any visitations, if Miss Dalton goes anywhere near my son, tries to hug him goodbye or whatever, you are to grab her, throw her, push her, kick her, whatever. Don't let her touch my son. And so the supervisor told him, I am not going to get physical with your ex.
How do you know he stated that?
Huh?
How do you know?
The supervisor told me many times, even over the phone, in person, he says, I cannot believe your ex told me to be physical with your child, with you, if you even tried to say goodbye to your child. So yeah, it's a pretty sick situation. Isn't
that his job to note all of that stuff?
Oh yeah, he is. He's noting it. And I'm sure if I ask him to go to court, I'm sure he'll go to court, because he has been really good at, we are still asking for supervised visitation, because that's all I can do now. And for the last 5 or 6 months, I keep going by asking the father every other week to see Ethan. He keeps saying, no, not with the supervisor. Now, there was another supervisor who was just doing the phone calls, and I kind of like said, okay, well, can you do the visit since he's not letting this guy do it? Well, then this lady, she went in and set up 3 visits, and he said that she could do it. But then when she set up the visits and confirmed it, he canceled. So it doesn't matter who does the visits. He's just canceling it no matter what. Also, he told me that I cannot see my son because of the pandemic, right? But then he takes my son to New York for a month, where there was a lot of restrictions in New York, and he had to go into quarantine. And so now I'm going to make sure that in the next hearing I bring that up, that, hey, you know, I'm not allowed to see my son because he's using the pandemic as a reason. But then he goes and takes my son to the most dangerous state where he had to go into quarantine. So it's whatever is convenient for him, basically, the father.
Right.
He gets to pick and choose what, and it's another way to alienate me from my son. He's very manipulative and controlling, and he doesn't like that my son and I have a loving relationship. That's the bottom line.
Right.
It's a sad situation. And I've been reading up a lot on narcissism, and they just don't, I don't know, they're very difficult people. They're it's like he uses my son as a pawn. Yeah, pawn, and he doesn't care about my son's feelings. Every email I write him, I tell him, I want to believe I'm not dealing with a narcissist, and I want to think that I'm talking some sense into this father. Like, I write emails like, doing this is hurting our son emotionally. How is this best for our son, keeping him away from his mother? But you can't reason with somebody like that. He doesn't care. I honestly feel like he doesn't love my son. Because if you love your child, you're gonna, the guy has done so much more to me. And for the first 6 years of my son's life, I had custody of my son, and he would visit his dad every other weekend. And I was really good at letting him see his dad and everything. Because even though he was really hard on me and he was abusive to me, I never wanted to, I wanted to separate our relationship with his kid and I wanted him to still have a loving bond with his kid because I didn't think that was right. I don't believe in alienation and destroying the child's. You still hear me, right? It says connection unstable. All right.
I'm here and I'm listening.
I did want to tell you though, so the first 6 years of my son's life, you could say, okay, that we never went to court or anything. And when they changed custodies, so basically I went back to court in the beginning, right? In 2014, because the father was physically hitting me on visitations. Like when I was exchanging my son, the father would like hurt me or do violent things, and I was like, you know, my son can't see this behavior anymore, and I wanted the court to help me because I was noticing when he was returning from his dad that he was becoming very violent, my son. So I learned that his dad was playing those aggressive, violent video games with him, you know, those first shooter games. And my son has an emotional disability. So he was taking all those games and using it in school. And it was just, he was getting behavior issues in school with other children and throwing over tables. And I thought, oh, this is really concerning. There's obviously something wrong with my son. He's coming back to it from his dad aggressive. Now I'm starting to see things in school. So when I opened the case in the court, it was to help my son because even though I believe in co-parenting, he doesn't. So I wanted to put my son on a therapist to find out what was going on. And his dad would say no, and his dad would say no to everything. So we had no other choice but to go into court, right? So the court, everything backfired on me. So even though I was asking them to kind of like look into the dad's home and find out more about the violent video games, find out why he's aggressive, and the dad's, they started giving the dad more time, and they started giving me less time. And then these two GALs came on my case, and they were friends with each other, and they did a lot of lies in the court. They falsified information, they twisted stories. It's almost like the CPS lady in my case, the two GALs, they were all like together collaborating the same story so that the child could stay in the father's care, even though that was not the best situation for him.
They do that, though.
So they do, and it's very sad. So over the years, I've pretty much been taking it out of my son's life and everything. I can no longer have summer vacations with my son. I can't see him on his birthday. I can't.
Why can't you see him on his birthday?
Because that was taken out of the order.
What is in the order?
Allowed to see him every other Saturday. The order is very limited. It's just I can only see him every other Saturday, up to 3 hours supervised. So so remember I told you his attorney, he writes all the orders. Like anytime any attorney tries to write an order for me, the judge only signs the order for my ex. So they do the order that favors the father. So basically this whole order is very manipulative to the father and what he wants. So he put in the order, he basically took out me having visitation with my son on his birthday. He took out summer vacation. He put only Christmas and Thanksgiving, but they made it through a supervisor who basically has their own family, so they can never do it. So I haven't had Christmas or Thanksgiving in the last 3 years with my son because a supervisor is not going to take time away from their own family to do it. So it's mostly like a setup. And if I can find a supervisor that does it, she said she would charge me double the amount of money to do it because it's a holiday. You're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
I see
listening.
you frozen. Oh, I see the camera frozen. All right. Um, so yeah, I pretty much cannot do anything with my son. It's sad. The last 3 years have been very depressing. Our conversations on the phone, it's like talking to a robot. You know, he can't say anything. His dad is watching him, recording him. When I'm talking on the phone, I have to be careful with everything I say because there's a third person in the conversation. Um, so to be honest, it makes me very sad that I don't feel like I know my son anymore. I think the whole system has just violated my rights as a parent. I mean, I was even put in jail for 5 days for defending my son. So not only did I bring up the abuse, that I believed my son that he was telling me the truth. I was punished for that, but I also, they made it where I can't contact the doctors. If I try to contact the doctor or anything because I'm concerned about my son's health, unless it's life threatening, I can be sentenced to jail for 5 days if I go anywhere near the doctor's office or even contact them. So for 5 months, the father puts my son on 4 medications, like psychotic medications, and he won't tell me what they are. And the psychiatrist, I'm not allowed to talk to him. And I started to notice these side effects in my son. He would twitch his eyes and like his whole nervous system. And I would write to his dad and I would complain that this is serious. You know, this could affect his neural system. You know, you need to really get him off these medications or tell the psychiatrist. I don't even understand why our son's even taking medications. And you won't tell me what these medications are. So I blind copy the psychiatrist, and even though I was writing my ex, and somehow they brought those emails into the courtroom, and the judge, my lawyer at the time, he was very angry with the judge. He says, I've never seen in history that a judge punishes a mother for protecting her child. If she didn't bring up the side effects of the medication to the psychiatrist, the father had no plan on doing it, and this child could be in worse condition today. And even the psychiatrist on the stand even said to the judge, yes, if it was not for Miss Dalton, I had no idea that the medicine was causing these side effects in the child. The father didn't tell me anything, but I was punished for it because I blind copied the doctor because I didn't know what to do because the father wasn't reporting, and my hands are tied. I can't do anything for my kid. So the judge says, I'm putting you in jail for violating my order, which I think was insane that a judge would put a mother in jail for, and I mean, she didn't look at she didn't look at the main reason that my son was in a dangerous situation, and I had to do what I
How long?
had to do what I had to do because it was what was best. She put me in there for 5 days. The GAL and the father were asking that I go to jail for 34 days.
Wow.
Because they were trying to say that they were trying to push that I violate the order all the time, which is a lie. And a lot of times I am punished, or I am accused of accusations that aren't even true. Kind of like what happened to you, false allegations. The same thing happened to me. The father would always file these show causes. Then Miss Dalton is disrupted in the doctor's office. And so they're trying to say I violate the orders. And it's all fabricated false lies. And even though there's proof that I have not violated those orders, and the witnesses have gone to the court and talked about it, the judge spends 2 or 3 months writing an order that favors the father. She kind of like twists the facts to keep the child with the father. So yeah, it's a pretty sad situation. So now I'm trying to do everything to get my case removed from this judge because um, I'm afraid to go back in there in a month. I don't know what she'll do to me. And then also I'm learning that a lot of these attorneys, they don't want to touch my case because they're like, oh, there's something weird about this case and something off. If you never committed a crime, why is the judge ordering you supervised visitation? They just don't think my story adds up, and they know this judge well, and they don't want to get on her bad side. Some of these attorneys, huh?
Oh, I was asking, who says your story doesn't add up?
Like the attorneys, when I'm telling the attorneys what happened in my case, and they don't really know the whole story. It's like, well, that's kind of strange that a judge will give you supervised visitation if you're saying that you didn't commit these crimes. They don't want to believe that a lot of what happened to me is false allegations and made up stories and lies that got to the situation. Just about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, all these moms came from all over the United States, and we went to DC to do a march, and it's called the Protected Moms. And we were trying to go to the White House to tell the the president that, moms, and a lot of moms are losing in custody these days, anytime they bring up abuse. Did you have a similar issue with CPS? You brought up abuse?
Yes.
In your case?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, see? So this is happening all over. See, I'm part of this protective mom organization and family right movement where we're trying to get, like in Virginia right now, I'm working with an advocate, and I'm trying to get a bill. We're trying to get a bill passed where we as people can vote for judges, because in our state, we got these Democratic or these political people deciding who are judges. Now, I don't know if that really makes a difference, because like, you guys get to elect your judges
You
in your
cut
state?
out. You cut out for a minute.
Oh, I was saying in your state, you guys get to choose your judges, right?
I'm not sure. Like for our case?
Oh, okay. Well, right. Like, for example, during election times, you guys get to pick what judge goes into the courts, right?
Oh, I have no idea.
From my understanding, there's only 2 states in the whole United States that there were. South Carolina and Virginia are the only 2 states where the legislator, the senators get to pick the judges that side in our cases. So we're trying to get that changed. And we're also trying to get a bill passed in Virginia that if a parent makes claims of abuse, that the judge should look at all the facts, or they should consider all the details of the evidence before they just weigh it out. Yeah, we're starting to see that the father right movement has taken over the courts, and they're trying to get more custody to fathers now, and moms are just, and they're not looking at all the evidence. I understand that maybe back in the past, there were mothers out there who made false allegations, but it doesn't mean that every case is the same. So that's very sad how the system was broken, now, and I don't know, it's a very sad situation. And you know what's else interesting about my situation? My judge, do you remember the case of Lorena Bobbitt? You know who Lorena Bobbitt is, right?
Sounds really familiar.
Yeah, she was her lawyer. She was her lawyer. That's the woman who cut her husband's penis off.
Okay.
Yeah. She defended that woman. So you would think that if another mother brings in a case of abuse or something that involving a child, she would be more understanding, right? Yeah. Oh
Right.
well. Yeah, I don't know. And it's a sad. So I'm trying to go back to court in a month to get this supervised visitation taken off. Oh, I also forgot to mention to you, when I brought my case back into court about 5 years ago, there was evidence that my son's behavior had deteriorated under the father's care. So now the schools were doing suicide threat assessments on my son, threat assessments. They got him a TA, that's a one-on-one. So it's actually a person that they assigned to my child where he had to go to a restricted playground because he was hurting other children. So all this evidence was brought to court showing that there was a deterioration in my son's health and his behavior under the father's care. And that now he was hurting little girls. Because that was also the thing. If you look at his behavior chart, all the things he was doing, like on the playground, little girls like smashing their head on the pavement and telling them to sit there in the corner and shut up. So obviously, you would think if you take all this evidence to a court and these judges are supposed to decide on a case, they should understand the psychology or have a psychologist there and really understand what's going on here, because that was obvious signs that my child was seeing abuse. He was probably seeing his father mistreat his wife. And they ignored all the evidence. And they left my son in the same environment. So about a month or two ago, they passed a new law here in Virginia. There's this thing called the best interest of the child, which I'm noticing the judges don't seem to follow. They go more by their opinion letters, which I think is horrible, because I think a judge, when it comes to a child or protecting children, if they're going to have a law that it's for the best interest of the child, that they should be mandated to follow those laws. But for some weird reason, in my case, the judge got away with not following those laws, and she's able to do what they call an opinion letter. So the opinion letter, she's kind of biased and she doesn't follow the law. So I've been talking to my legislators here in Virginia about what's going on in my case and a lot of other cases. And one of the legislators, he told me that we're going to pass a law that says that you can bring up the past 10 years of abuse into your case. And when you bring this back to court, the judge has to follow it. So now I'm going to take advantage and take that little law that they just passed, and I'm going to re-enter my case from 3 years ago. Yep. And because I want to show I want to be able to have evidence to show that this judge is just biased. She's just not doing the right thing.
Right.
I guess me bringing that back up, if she rejects it again, and he says she has to follow this law, and she does, I'm going to take it back to him and say, look, you told me that she has to follow this law, and look, she objected to me bringing up abuse again. So obviously, these judges are doing whatever they want. But I'm really sad and concerned about my son, because now it's been 3 years. I don't know what's going on with him. He can't tell me anything. He's afraid of his father. So it's...
Are you there? Hello?
I
Hold on.
there are a
Hold
lot
on.
of times I don't sleep well at
Wait.
night. I wake.
Hello. Okay, let's see if I can bring her back.
Okay.
We lost you.
Yeah, I saw that. Now I see myself. But
Hold
but
on.
yeah, I don't know. I think that was, I tried to give you the best. You know who Michael Volpe is?
Hold on, because you keep you keep cutting out. So what did you say? You tried to give me the best what?
I was trying to give you the best way I knew how to explain my story to you.
Yeah.
Is there any specific, is there anything in specific that you wanted me to share, or did I give a good summary of what exactly happened in my case?
You did.
Okay.
But I was wondering if I can like go over a couple things.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
And these are things that you may have already said, but just for everybody listening, I want to kind of go over a few things.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know if when I had to step away for a minute, I was throwing up, and so I
Oh
have.
no, you're sick? Oh,
Hey, this is Liz. Hey, this is Liz. I like everything. Ryan's gonna be part of it too.
Okay. Love you.
Love you too. All right, bye.
Okay, go on. Shut my door, please. School. Am I sick? Well, I have GI issues, so I have tubes in my stomach. Did you know that or no?
oh no.
Yeah, I have let's see here.
Ow.
And so a big issue is that I vomit often.
Oh, that's gonna be hard.
It's very hard, especially when I'm doing an interview. So
And I bet a lot of these stories upset you.
they're
You know,
very
but
they're very hard to listen to and to remember, things that I went through.
I think it's a nice thing that you're doing though for these parents. That's putting this show together. That's wonderful.
Okay, so let's go over again why your son. Okay, so you said that you had custody in the beginning. When you had custody, did the father have rights to him or no?
Okay, go ahead. You can
You're cutting out again.
ask me
Hold on. Hold on, are you there?
whatever you want.
Are you there? Hello? We might have to just end this if it does not work.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know,
Okay.
but your service keeps cutting in and out really bad.
Okay.
But I don't know anything you just said after my question.
Oh, I didn't even get to hear your question. You were like frozen. I couldn't hear you at all. What was your question?
It's okay. I asked if you can, okay, when you had custody of your son in the beginning, right?
Right.
Did the father have any custody at all?
He had every other weekend.
Okay, because I know that you had said you made sure he saw him every other weekend, but I wasn't sure if that was an order or not. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we did 2010 is when the order started. But yeah, I did, even with the order, I let him see him every other weekend. And I even let him see him other times that he wanted Ethan for other things that he wanted to do with my son outside the order.
Okay. And then CPS first, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, it cuts out and then like you freeze, so.
I don't know.
You said that.
There's good connection in here. I don't know why.
I don't know. You said that CPS first came in your life because you called them, right? Hello?
You're freezing.
Yeah, you're freezing too.
Oh my God, this is terrible.
Yes. What internet are you using?
I'm using just the regular Wi-Fi, the service, the Comcast.
I'm not understanding why it cuts out the way it does.
That's too bad. So my video's gonna be all cut out.
Well, we can edit it, but
Okay.
the
Yeah.
live version will be, yes. But we can edit it.
Okay. So you're asking me why the CPS, when did it first come into my life?
It was because you made that phone call, right? Are you there?
I didn't get anything you said. It was like a didn't hear anything you said.
Yes, it keeps cutting out again. What did I say? Is it because you made that phone call?
What about if you texted to me? Can you write on this thing?
Yes,
Can you
but
write on?
yes, but you cut out too. So is there a different internet you can connect to or no? Are you on your Wi-Fi?
I'm gonna try adding my phone to it and see if that works. Hold on, let me. Let's see my connection, my internet. Let's see. Let's change it to the high.
Okay. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you're frozen completely.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, you're back.
I see myself moving.
Now you are.
Okay. All right.
Did you change your internet?
Yeah, I did. Let's hope this works.
Yeah, let's try.
Okay.
CPS
All right.
came in your life because you made a phone call, right?
Correct.
Okay. But they didn't take him for the first phone call, right?
No, they didn't.
Why did they take him when they did?
So it wasn't that the CPS actually took him. It was more like they went on the stand and they lied. Like in the last hearing, the CPS lady went in and she collaborated with the GALs to not mention the abuse, to keep my son with the abusive father. So no, I haven't. They never actually came in and took my son. They basically went on the stand and lied, so that and fabricated their story so that the child could stay with the parent who was not the most reasonable and safe parent.
Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking of my questions from your story.
Okay, no problem. I did though, I wanted to share this. The one lady that lied in my stand, the CPS lady, I called her a week later and I recorded her and I said, so why didn't you tell the courts about the abuse? And she said, this was her answer: the judge never asked me, so I didn't think I had to report it. Yeah, so there you go. And you know that CPS workers, just like teachers, because I'm a teacher, we are like mandate reporters. So her saying that was just very wrong.
Yep, agreed. So, how long before when they took your son did they take your like visitation and stuff away?
Oh, okay. So that happened gradually throughout the years, little by little. But this last hearing where the CPS lady lied and didn't say there was abuse, that was the worst order ever. It's like a gag order. And there they pretty much have taken everything away from me. I'm like a visiting parent only, and I don't feel like I have any rights to my son at all. With this last order, that's why I'm trying to now. I did the psychological evaluation, which is wrong, and they're going to see in the evaluation that there is nothing wrong with me. So you know, they pushed for that evaluation. I asked that the father have one, and they said he doesn't need one, which I don't understand how a father who alienates the child from the mother, who lies, and you know, who, I don't know, all the stuff that the father has been doing, how he would not need one, and also all the abuse claims against him. You know, but that's our court system today. It's all broken. You know, you go under oath on a stand and you're supposed to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. And I believe in that. And I learned in these courts, well, in my case, that it doesn't matter how much truth you tell, because the person who lies and fabricates and manipulates the court, and it's the one who wins. And it's just sad. They don't even look at all the evidence.
Well, and it's also the one who has the money.
Well, that's the other thing that I find weird. The father lost his job 3 years ago, and he's just staying home, living off of whatever child support they're forcing me to pay an income that I don't make. So the father lied in the child support hearing too. I'm fighting 2 courts here, Fairfax and Alexandria, because the child support believed his lie that I make this amount of money, which I've never made. So they did this phantom amount of money that I've never made in my life, and they're forcing me to pay this money that I have never made every month. And he's just sitting at home watching the kids. And then his other wife, his current wife, works for the State Department, and she's supporting him. And I don't even know. I mean, yeah, you would think it would be about money too, but I just think now it's more about just leaving children with the wrong parent. Because what they want to do eventually is, if I complain enough, they'll be able to take the child away from him and forget the good parent. They probably want to just put it into the foster care system, because it's all a gambling, money, fabricated system, you know?
Right.
I think that's where all this is coming down to. It's like dirty laundry, you know, they're just, they're using that as an excuse, because they could give the child back to me, but what is the point? They know that if my son comes back to me, I'm not going to go back to court. If they leave the child with the bad parent, of course, the good protected parent's going to keep going back to court. So they're making money off of our case. And then who knows?
Just reading something off of about that, about how they do that cycle of wanting the parent to come back because of the money.
Yeah, I think that's all that is. And then I think what happens eventually is, even though it's a lie and I'm not a bad parent, there is no criminal, I've never committed a crime, never done anything. No abuse allegations have ever been charged against me. I've never been considered an unfit parent. You know, I work as a teacher. I go to church. I'm actually a pretty good mom, and a nice mom. There's no criminal record or history of crimes that I've ever done in my life. So yeah, it's just like, it's all a game and setup, I think, honestly, from what I'm learning. There's no reasoning behind what they do. And the sad part is, they're not even thinking about the children in these cases. The children mean nothing to them.
No. Somebody just said, I noticed that you are right. The manipulative people do get further in courts. It's true. The more drama to exactly, it is crazy like that, exactly how you describe.
Yeah, it's like a kangaroo court. You should have seen in my courtroom. It was so upsetting. The day I was arrested in the courtroom, you had the 2 GALs sitting on the father's side of the room, because you know how the courtroom, you have the father's side and the mother?
Right.
You had the 2 GALs laughing, the judge winking her eye at the attorney on the father's side. And it almost looked like a kangaroo court, a circus, like this was all like a setup. It was sick. It's just a sick system. It's sick that they would jeopardize a child's life.
Right.
It's not their child, so what do they care?
Right.
And they took the child away from a loving mom who would do anything to protect him. But now they've tied my hands and I can't do anything for him. Now I have to go back to the same judge, which I'm working on how I can raise enough noise where I can, because her term is coming up, like her term to be reelected is coming up in a couple of months. So I'm hoping that I can go back to the senators and the delegates and write letters and talk about how do you impeach or how to get her off, because I don't even know if another judge would help me, but I think it's wrong that they just took away my son from his mom for no justification. And
Absolutely.
and yeah, it's sad because even though I'm hurt, my son is really hurt.
You're right.
And they don't understand by doing this to children. Then they wonder why in the future we have these children that go shoot up schools, that go and do all these things. It's because these court systems are just emotionally destroying our children. They're raising them to be criminals. I mean, they're affecting them. Hopefully I'll be able to save my son before he gets much older. But it's very painful. The whole system, the whole dynamic of the court system, the family court needs reform, and we need to be able to go into the courtroom and be able to present our evidence before. That's another bill that me and the advocates here in Virginia are trying to do. We're trying to get a bill passed where the judges should look at all the evidence before a case, because when you bring in your evidence and you have these two sides, there's always that objection, and then they never really get to hear the full story. As where if you could bring all the evidence in and the judge can read it before the case, then she or he would have a better understanding of what's really going on than the way the system is now, where another party can object. And if you have a biased judge like mine, then you're never heard.
Yep.
So, I don't know. So what else did you want to ask me?
Hold on, I'm thinking.
And the stories I sent you that were written, that I have in several different stories, you can pass them along to people. I was passing them along on Facebook and everywhere. I sent them through Messenger, but
you can actually attach them to your story.
Oh, okay. Because those stories give a better summary of what exactly happened. Because I know when I talk on video, just like you, I'm nervous, and so I probably sounds like I'm everywhere.
Actually,
I keep going back and forth in years and trying to tell you everything, and it's probably all jumbled up.
It actually sounded very put together. So
Oh, okay, all right.
not
Yeah.
confusing. So the original reason you called was, in a sense, sexual abuse. Has there been any more of any type of abuse that you're aware of?
No, not sexual. Mine was not sexual abuse.
But-
Mine is about just, abuse in general. Like, oh yeah, you're right. The penis story. Yes, I do. Now I remember. Yeah, the original call was for that. You're right. And then later on it.
That noise.
Huh?
Do you hear that noise? Were you tapping your fingers, maybe?
Oh, I don't know. No, I wasn't tapping my fingers.
You are?
No, I'm not.
It sounds like somebody's tapping.
Oh, that's strange. No, I'm not tapping at all.
Okay.
I have no idea what that is.
Do you hear it or no?
I don't hear it. That's weird. But
So
yeah.
has there been any other kind of abuse?
So the other abuse was, remember the penis story, and then the story about him choking my son to take medication and twisting his arm and pushing him and pinning him to the bed and pinching him. But like I was saying, no matter how many times I would call CPS because I was concerned, and other people have called, like other mandate reporters have called CPS, and they said that there is that this is not enough evidence to press charges, which is very weird that they would say that, And I remember the last time I reported abuse, the CPS lady, the one that went to the court, she interviewed my son in the father's house. Now, why would you do that? That's just crazy. My son isn't going to say, oh, yeah, knowing his father's there, yeah, my dad's doing this to me.
Right.
He even says to me, he's even told me my dad records everything I say or do. So, you know, my son isn't dumb. The only way that story got out was me taking my son to her office during the week, and he felt more comfortable saying something to her at that time because he wasn't in front of his father. But again, what's the point? She went to the court and she didn't even mention that story to the judge or to the courts. She took that out of her whole testimony. So yeah, these CPS people, they're not doing anything to protect kids either.
Right.
And how do I know for the last 3 years my son isn't still being hurt by his father?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think what happened is when I went to jail, after I got out of jail, I had one visitation with my son. And in front of the supervisor, he said, Mommy, Daddy told me you went to jail because you did something really bad. And I said, no, honey, I didn't. I actually did something that I was protecting you. And he said that I was so upset, Mommy, that night that I broke my lamp into pieces because I didn't know what happened to you. And I feel like after that day when he found out I went to jail, I don't know what they told him. He never reported anything ever again to me. I think maybe he was told, hey, if you keep reporting stuff to your mom, these are the kind of things that's going to happen to her. So I think now my son is just afraid to talk.
Probably.
Because he was very open before.
Right.
Like we had a very open relationship, and with me, we had a really close relationship where he felt very comfortable telling me anything.
I think that's how it should be.
And then I think once he realized, because he's a very smart boy, that my mom can't protect me even when I tell her stuff. So I guess that's why he doesn't say anything anymore.
That makes me sad.
It's very sad. It's sad because he even told me one time in one of our visitations a while back, Mommy, all they're trying to do is control us. Mm. So he sees what's happening. And no child should have to go through that, you know?
Right.
Bad.
No child should lose their innocence this way.
They do.
Yeah, and feel like they have to, stick up for us in a sense and carry the burden of feeling like a resentment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus that, I'm sure now, he used to be a very happy and smiley boy. Now he's just angry and mad, and it almost seems like he's got a lot of anxiety, even though he's happy to see me, but like whenever his dad comes around, she can't show me love. He can't give me a hug. He always looks at his dad for approval. Yeah.
That's what my kids, they weren't allowed to have like emotions at my parents. And I remember when my dad took us to see their dad for the first time when we split up, I knew, I mean, how would you expect a 5-year-old to act?
Oh, when she saw her other parent?
Yeah.
Happy, right? Happy. But she couldn't.
But then how would you expect her to act when the visit's over?
Sad.
Right. That she could not feel.
Yeah, it's the same with him. He can't feel, he can't. And another thing that I noticed with my son, because remember I told you his dad is a narcissist, so they have no remorse or empathy.
Right.
So a lot of what's going on with my son now is, and my biggest fear is that now that he's growing up with his dad, that he might become just like his dad. And now he's learning that it's okay to mistreat women, you know, even his own mom. And that's not the role model I wanted for my son. And one of the things when the father was abusing me, I took my son because I wanted to show him a better life. I wanted to show him that this isn't the way men treat women, you know.
Right.
And these courts, they failed me because they put him back in that same spot. And even though I left his father because he was abusive, the courts have made him now a nightmare in my life. I got away from the abuse because I couldn't take it anymore. And now he's using my son to keep me in the abuse because now he's denying me visitation. So I feel like I'm still not out of that relationship. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I totally do.
It's just, it's sad. And even though I'm angry at the father for doing this, I'm more angry at the justice system for allowing this because his dad's behavior is predictable. I know what I'm dealing with him. But the fact that they're letting him have so much power and entitlement and to manipulate the social situation between my son and I and our relationship is so sick. And I don't understand how judges can side on people's cases if they don't have the proper training to do so. I mean, this is a circuit court judge. She's the chief judge of the whole court. I mean, how can they allow somebody to make those kind of decisions on a family and just destroy it? I don't know. It's sick. It's a sick situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. You know, and my poor son, he's just angry and he's upset. Oh, what I was going to tell you is, like, if I cry in front of my son, and these were the fears that I had, that if he lived with his dad, because his dad has no empathy or doesn't ever say he's sorry for anything he does wrong, that he was going to be like, not like having emotions or like have empathy, right? And so my son sees me cry, and it's very strange. He won't cry with me, but he'll try to wipe my tears, and he gets very upset when he sees me crying. Not upset where he's crying because he feels sad. It's almost like it bothers him, like saying, no, you can't do this. I don't know how to react to this emotion, mommy. And that's sad. It's sad when I see him have those type of reactions. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, I don't
understand it. I guess he's being taught that emotions don't matter. Or I don't know. Or maybe his father is disregarding his feelings half of the time.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and therefore he doesn't know how to react when he sees somebody else sad. I don't know. All I know is that when my son comes, if I'm able to get him back to me, I know we're gonna both need a lot of maybe a lot of therapy to work through his feelings. I
Yeah.
guess. I don't think it's gonna be an easy process because the transition. I think there has been a lot of damage done over the last 4 or 5 years.
It's gonna need a lot.
Yeah. I mean, when your kids came back to you 2 years later, how did you
There
did you
was
feel did you need a lot of intervention as well?
oh yeah, there was a lot, still is, of repair that is needed
Yeah.
to help them.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like the anger and the depression and anxiety and all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It's sad.
It is very sad. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen in a month from now. I'm hoping that the supervised visitation is taken off because that should have never been put on to begin with. There is no proof that I'm a danger to my child for that to even been allowed and to happen. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And that was just another way for the father to manipulate and get what he wanted to keep my son and I away from each other.
When is your next court hearing?
I want it to be done before Thanksgiving. So I'm going to try to turn in all the paperwork by October 9th. And I think I'm asking for an emergency hearing because I haven't seen my son in 6 months. And to me, that is considered, that should be like a show cause. That should be a violation of court order. And all the years I've gone to court, it's very sad that when I went to court with my lawyers, even though the father had violated the order several times, my lawyers have always said, no, we're going to go in and not bring up the violations he did. We're going to show that you're the reasonable parent and that you could work with his father, and they're going to give you custody back. But you know what I learned over the years? That this judge was more excited about hearing the false allegations against me or the show causes than parents working together with each other. It's for some weird reason they didn't like that idea. The GAL was like, oh, this mother wants to co-parent. That's ridiculous. So my judge believes only in sole custody. So she doesn't even believe in 50-50, nothing.
Really?
Yeah, that's very strange. I don't understand that at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. You would think that these courts would be about family and working together, and I'm so disappointed in the whole court system. Yeah. And you know what else is even strange? The attorney from my ex, I was asking him to do mediation once because I want to try to avoid going into court again. But of course, my ex likes going to court because he sees his judge is always on his side. So why wouldn't he prefer the court? And also, narcissism mediation, that's that's a gamble. They don't really like this trying to compromise and work it out. They want to be in control of everything, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So so I remember I was asking for mediation, and this attorney told me, this judge will never ever give you your son back. You're wasting your time going into the courtroom filing motions. She is going to keep the child with the father no matter what.
Well, you're not wasting time.
No, I'm not. I'm never going to give up.
Right, good.
Because that's something that my son needs to see one day, how much which I pray that I will get him back soon, not when he's 18. yeah. But I never want him to not see that I've been trying and trying all these years. So this judge also told me, you are never to come back in my courtroom without a lawyer, which she has violated a lot of my rights as a parent. I mean, my pro se rights, I think every right that I've had, she's violated it. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all the stories. I've gone on several videos like you know how I'm doing your show. I've gone on other shows like yours.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, several of them.
I didn't know there was other ones like mine.
Well, do you know Francesca Amato?
No.
Yeah, I went on her. I did something with her, and
Hang on one moment.
It's our timer tomorrow.
huh? Oh, is somebody talking to us?
Just hold one moment.
Okay, all right.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Well, is there anything else about your case that you want to share?
No, I think that's it. Right now I'm just preparing to go back to court again. Hopefully in a month. I can always send you a text later how that went.
I would like
if it got worse or it got better for me. If I got the unsupervised visitation finally.
Yeah, I would like an update on that. And
my stories, I can. What did you say I could do with those stories that I sent to you on your messenger?
attach them to this video.
All right. So how will I have access to this video? You'll send it to me when it's ready?
It's already on Facebook as a live video, and so when we disconnect, go on the I'll actually, let me see if I can tag you in it. One moment. What is your last name on here?
Last name Dalton.
Okay, it won't let me. When we get off, I'll have my assistant tag you in it. I know how to do it when we get off.
Okay, no problem. All right.
But yeah, I'd like an update.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happens. I'll send you a message on your messenger and what happened to if I got anything better or if it stayed the same. I hope right or not, it doesn't stay the same.
Yeah.
And
if you have questions for an attorney, you know that you can contact us on the radio station on Saturday nights, and he will help you.
Oh, can you send me that phone number on Messenger?
Yes, I'm gonna say it on here, and then I'll write it on Messenger too. But it's 1-800.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna
send you on Messenger.
Okay.
1-800. 222 5222.
Okay. Yeah, I was telling who is the person that that I talked to before your show? Your assistant?
Yes.
Okay, I was telling them on the thing that, oh, I don't have a story where the CPS actually took the child, but because I was reading your child, but they did lie in my case. And they said,
Right.
well, it should be fine. You can still tell your story because CPS was still involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
All
I'm
right.
glad that you felt comfortable sharing, and I would like an update.
Oh, of course. I
So
will
let-
definitely give you an update. I appreciate you letting me come on your show. Sorry it took so long for us to
No,
finally meet, but I'm glad we were able
Okay.
to work this out.
Yes, me too. So I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
All right. Thank you so much. The same to you. And thank you again
All
for
right.
having me on the show, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Thank you.
And if
Bye-bye.
I see other moms or other families, I'll introduce them to your show as well. Is that all right?
Yes, I would love that. Share it on your page.
Okay, I will. All right. Thank you so much. All right.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
day. All right. Take care. Bye.